If God knew that today I was going to eat Fruit Loops, does that mean that I had to eat Fruit Loops and that I wasn't free to eat, say, Cheerios? I don't think so, and here's why. This challenge has a mistaken understanding of how God's foreknowledge works. It assumes God's foreknowledge somehow causes my actions, and that if it causes my actions, then I'm not free. But God's foreknowledge doesn't cause anything. In fact, it's not God's knowledge of future actions that causes my actions. Rather, it's my actions that ground God's knowledge of the future. Here's how philosophers put it. While God's foreknowledge is chronologically prior to my actions are logically prior to God's foreknowledge. An analogy might be helpful. God's foreknowledge is like an infallible barometer of the weather. A barometer helps forecast what the weather's going to be like. Now imagine a barometer that never fails. It's always right. But clearly an infallible barometer doesn't cause the weather. Rather, the barometer depends on the weather. The weather determines what the barometer forecasts. If the weather were different, then the barometer would have been different. So back to our original question. If I freely choose to eat Fruit Loops for breakfast today, then God will have always known I would choose to eat Fruit Loops for breakfast today. However, if I freely chose to eat Cheerios for breakfast instead, then it would have been the case that God would have always known that I would choose Cheerios for breakfast. So here's the takeaway. God's foreknowledge doesn't cause our actions. Instead, our actions ground what God foreknows.